you always go by the wicks typically when you're drawing trend lines. The bodies are used for support and resistance, but typically trend lines will use the wicks. Now, if it changes, right, if it doesn't make sense for me to use the wick, I'll use the body. But right here, you can clearly see if I would have used the bodies, let me show you. It would be the same thing. Look, but it would be tighter. See it? Body. Now also notice our trend line's getting more narrow. You guys see it? Here,
Yes, sir.
here. It's getting heavier, 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 right?
Yeah, every time it gets close to that 440, I mean, the volume on the buy side just jumps. So,
Oh yeah. Everybody's buying at 440 because they're all anticipating the pop of 440. That's why I said, though, this is the fourth time it's gotten there. These buyers have got to start going, okay, man, this isn't any good anymore, right? Because the more times it touches, the weaker it will get. Again, this has to break through here because what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, you see this trend line I drew? If it pops above this, right, it's going to give all the buyers momentum because they're going to be like, we finally won. And then it's going to rip my face clean off. This could be one of my last attempts to get out. Do you see it? The tighter this goes, the more dangerous it becomes for me because I'm holding in here. So when this comes down to this 440, I've got to make that quick decision again. Like, hey, is this going to pull or is this coming up? And you can see where it's starting to come through the trend line. See this here? I don't want that. It has to sit in here to give me a nice pull. So anyways, this has to sit down in here. Because every time this comes down here, I have to decide, okay, do I take the L? Do I let it work? Do I let it come back up to this state? And again, because I'm in here, I shouldn't be worrying this long and I shouldn't be in this trade this long, right? That's why I don't like entering at the wrong time. You enter at the wrong time, you have to start making too many decisions. You start making too many decisions because you're on the wrong side of the trade. It can get some of you guys into big trouble, right? You would hold this thing till the cows come home, lose every cent instead of taking an L. Am I right?
Yes, it's playing with my emotions and I'm not even in a trade.
Yeah, you'd be like, but I think it could possibly at some point throughout the next 8 hours come back. You see how this is popping up? That's dangerous. You see this? Yeah, this is dangerous territory right here, ladies and gentlemen. This has to pull. And I told you guys, it keeps popping through. It did it here. It did it here. It just did it here. You see them? It's got to fade. If not, I'm going to take like a 5 or 6K L on it. Minimum, if it decides to pop through. Because remember, VWAP is the last stop. See it right here? Look at this, right? This is what Jimmy would call his vortex. You see how it's coming down here to here. This is the area. See it getting smaller? So you had buyers that pushed this candle up. Then you had a doji, which should have spelled reversal, which means everybody started selling right here. And then it just spiked up to the upside anyways, right? So especially in pre-market, I'm really just paying more attention to volume coming in. How much is it working? What kind of news catalyst was it? When you get big news like that, even if people are running around trying to sell off and do this, weird little stuff, it doesn't matter. I mean, look how quick the buyers came right back in there. And then they try to sell it off. And then the buyers came right back in there again. Now, what you really need to be concerned about are these candles. Do you see this and this? This signifies no more volume in here. You see this? That's more what you need to be scared of than anything else. The reason that is that without volume, this doesn't move anymore. So that means if a seller comes in here and dumps this thing, there's probably not enough volume to buy it up, right? So you're more concerned with this garbage than any of these in the pre-market. See how these are not candles, but they're lines? These are a sign nobody's buying and selling now. Nobody's in there buying and selling Tupperware right at this moment. These are way worse. There's no body to the candle. There's no body, right? no body, meaning a line, there's no volume right here. There's nobody buying and selling this thing. So let's say we're in Apple, the 2-minute EWO, and you're riding this thing out, right? And you're making money all the way up to the upside, and it breaks down here. Now look at the color change. We don't panic on this color change because we bought it down here. It's still above VWAP and it's still rolling. The only time we worry about a color change is at the entry of the trade, and it changes color right away, meaning it did not have strength to drive it to which way you want to go before changing color. You don't have to worry about this because you're up so much. The color change doesn't affect you. Does that make sense? So unfortunately, if we use some sort of algo that said, hey, you need to tell us to get out. Well, the problem is the algorithm would have said, get out here, right? It would have been like, you must get out. The color changes and all that stuff, right? So an algorithm would have said, get out here on the bottom. And then it drove back up to the top again, right? So now for us, we want to be doing the shedding technique. The reason is, check this out. If this comes up, right? Here's your first shed, by the way. There's 50, comes up, pulls back. There's 20. Pops up, pulls back. There's 20, comes back down, breaks VWAP. I would for sure get out, and that's the rest of it. But now check this out. What if it came down again, right? And then it took off, and it just made new higher highs and higher highs, right? But the algorithm was like, well, get out. That's completely wrong, right? This is why we can't use an algorithm to exit. So if you guys are always wondering, but I don't know when to get out, shed on pullbacks.